Hey guys, 66 here and welcome to part 3 of the banned Yu-Gi-Oh card tier list. This is the best part out of all of them, at least I'm thinking it's gonna be, because we're really getting into the Simo roast in this part. So let's get right into it. First card for the day, we have Pot of Greed. So like with Graceful Charity, we're playing Pot of Greed in A tier for the reasons I described with Graceful Charity. And in case you guys missed part 1, I'll briefly go over it again. The reason this is an A instead of an S is because it's an unsearchable one-of that fails to instantly win the game and is not all that hard to negate. So what do I mean by this? If you open Pot of Greed in your deck, that's a 1 in 8 chance going first, and it won't instantly win you the game even if it resolves, because going +1, drawing 2 isn't necessarily good enough to get you out of a really bad situation. And it can get hit by Ash, and it sort of loses a draw as well. Comparing that to the unsearchable one-ofs that we do have in S tier, for example, Gofu. Gofu, I would argue, is actually stronger than Pot of Greed, even if Pot of Greed gets 2 good cards. Because if you think about it, let's say one of the cards is a Cock-a-doodle-doo or an instant fusion for Theseus, a turbo card tuner that instantly summons itself, and the other card summons 2 tokens, right? And a card that just summons 2 tokens for free, no normal summon, doesn't exist, because that's how broken that effect is. So if you get a decent card and a card so good it doesn't exist, and you use both of them, that's the same as using the Gofu by itself. In addition to that, Gofu doesn't lose to Ash or Droll. And in addition to that, going second, there's basically no way to negate Gofu. Like, even if they have a monster negate and destroy, you can still see that coming and just summon Gofu without activating the effect. Yeah, and Simo completely fails to explain what justifies this being a S tier ban card. It's like, yes, it's really good. Yes, you play it in just about every deck. But we're comparing to cards that can instantly win the game, right? When you're comparing to cards like that, I don't think this holds up. And which are searchable, by the way. That's the main difference here. Some of these cards might not be as powerful or accessible as Pot of Greed per se, but they're searchable. So next, we have Premature Burial. This card is really strong because you can bounce it and it's an equip spell, so there's ways to search it. I think it's definitely better than Reborn for those 2 factors alone. It's more searchable. And also, it can be looped because it's a really old card. And the way it's worded means that you can bounce it to your hand and then use it again, and the monster you summon stays. I'm not sure if this goes in B or A tier. I think B is fair because Brionac got an errata, and it's not nearly as easy to just infinite loop that. Oh my gosh, Brio used to be so much more broken than it is now. You could just discard, bounce, discard, bounce. It wasn't once per turn either. And bounce your own cards. We don't have that anymore, so I don't think this is nearly as abusable, but Isolde exists, and Power Tool exists, and there's just a whole bunch of generic equip spell support. This would be really strong if it came back, and there's probably some dumb way to abuse it with bouncing that I'm not thinking of. For that reason, we're going to put this in B. Alright, then next we have Return from the Different Dimension. So this one's very interesting. Very interesting, because I'm not exactly sure where to put this. If this came back to 3, you could search with Trap Trick, it would just be completely broken. But at 1, I think it's reasonable, actually. Okay, what would really abuse this is Virtual World, for example. You just banish everything and summon it all back. But this is a trap, so it's kind of slow, and there's not a lot of control decks that banish a whole bunch. You got like Orcus, maybe. But I think it is pretty slow, and going second in a trap deck, if you draw this, it's just a brick going second, right? So I think this is similar to Max C, where it's like, it can instantly win you the game, but it can also brick really hard and lose you the game instead. So for that reason, we're going to give this a B, just like the Max C. See where Simo put it.
Return from the Different Dimension is S tier. If we have Dimension Fusion as S tier, we have to have this card on here as well.
How do you liken this card to this card? Like, first of all, this card is printed as basically a nerf of Dimension Fusion. Second of all, it's a trap, so it's like it's so much slower. And thirdly, left arm offering. I know people aren't thinking of that, but the thing about left arm banishes the monsters in your hand, and this card can revive them. Whereas maybe I'm missing a generic trap searcher, but I don't think it's really easy to get to this. And because it's a trap card, it's way slower. So you summon on the opponent's turn, which means they can kill those in the battle phase, or let's say you use an M2, they can access code. There's a lot of ways for them to clear your monsters. And usually when you summon with a Soul Charge or Dimension Fusion, you're not summoning big win con negate type cards. You're summoning a lot of little cards that can then go into bigger cards on your turn. And then we have Royal Oppression. Now this card's really disgusting. So, I mean, this card's insanely strong. There are some problems with it though. The life point paying can get in the way at some point if you have to pay enough life points, especially going second. Because they already have a bunch of monsters up. So if you try and negate a bunch of their summons on the next turn, on turn 3, and then they just enter battle phase, you might not have enough life points to tank all the damage. There are some major problems with this card, but going first, this can win so many matchups. The problem is that people can easily build around this and play more main deck answers that are technically good. Like Nadir Servant answers this. You just send the Natis and it pops it. So there are a lot of ways to out this if you are going second. The main thing to consider is whether or not you can end on this in a combo deck, because if you can, you just win. And I think that's a one of the answer to that is a hard no. You're not going to be able to get it consistently at all. It's not really searchable outside of doing some convoluted, curious Griffin shenanigans. But at that point, there are a lot of other cards. And I think an important thing to compare this to with is Summon Limit. Because Summon Limit, while being kind of worse off in some matchups, is still really comparable. Now, despite the fact that there are a lot of matchups where Summon Limit's a lot worse, like Dragoon, Red Ice Fusion matchup, for example, in many cases, they basically do the same thing, because Summon Limit will count the normal summon, and then one special summon, and then you flip it. And from there, they can't summon any more times. And usually, when that happens, they're setting up a link or setting up some bigger play, which means that most of the monsters they have probably don't do very much on their own. So you're stopping one less summon with Summon Limit compared to your Royal Oppression. Since you're playing a deck with Summon Limit, your deck probably is going to summon less than the opponent. Which means that it doesn't hurt you nearly as much, because you can still normal summon your Ecclesias, you can still summon your Eldritch if you're playing that, your Golden Lord. You can still go into a Dragoon if you're playing the Dragoon deck. So you're able to do a lot more under Summon Limit because you're prepared for it. Whereas with Royal Oppression, you can't special summon it at all, which means unless your deck is only normal summoning, you can't summon either. I think that's a huge problem. And then just the problem with cards like that in general going second are pretty horrible. So unless your deck already has a strong going second game. So for all those reasons I listed, Royal Oppression is going to go in the B tier. It's really strong because it basically stops all special summons. But there are a lot of key weaknesses. And the fact that that's just not a super overpowered effect going second at all, right? That's a weak effect going second.
Typically, you're going to activate this when you're in a winning position so that your opponent has realistically zero way of coming back. But if they do have a way to come back, this card can bite you, where Vanity's Emptiness, if your opponent starts clearing your board, Emptiness goes along with it, so you're not really locked under it.
All right, so you won't put this in A because, like, he mentions, like, yeah, I can instantly win you the game. But I would argue that's true for a lot of ban cards. That's not remotely sufficient to justify A tier. And then we have Mirage Stalio. So we're going to put this in D, because I think Salads can't do half a thing with Mirage. Well, Circle would still be hit, but they do have mining and 3 debug. I mean, Salads kind of sucks, but remember, my criteria for F tier is that even if it were to come back, there would be no deck that's good that could use it effectively. Alright, then we have Samsara Lotus. So, from what I remember, the loop with this was that it wasn't once per turn, so you could just summon it infinitely with Topologic. I don't remember what the FTK was after that, right? Because it keeps nuking itself, and then you had something to do burn damage. I don't remember what the combo was. So to give it the benefit of the doubt, because it's an FTK that was consistent enough to get this card banned, we're gonna put it in C. And then we have self-destruct button. Would anyone play self-destruct button? Let's think about it. I don't really think so, because it's a lot easier to win in time with burn these days because the end of the phase instead of 5 turns. So it's like you just have to hit them right there to win in time. You don't have to do anything quite so elaborate. But at the same time, you can like try to do this and then go into time, which could be interesting. Like, this is just one of those dumb tournament-worthy cards where you can use it with external rules like the time rule to manipulate and how matches work, and once that gets set off, you can use it to your advantage. So granted, there's probably some way people will learn how to really abuse this card and take full advantage of it, and at that point, there's probably some viability to it. And I really don't think it can come back because it's so destructive. And that's just not fun to play against. It's like, oh, it's a draw. All right, next game. And it just cuts down the time, right? Because however long that game basically gets erased because it was a draw.
The only reason this is on here is because it can possibly make it so that you and your opponent draw, and draws are just something that Konami likes to typically avoid. That's the only reason this card exists. Even if this card were allowed, I don't think people, unless they're specifically trying to troll, would actually play this card.
But because of timer shenanigans, he doesn't even mention timer shenanigans. That's literally all this card is good for, but I think for that it deserves a C. Alright, then the Sixth Sense is an easy S tier, because imagine using this in Eldritch, bro. Like, it's not even bad going second, because you can survive, and then if you get the draw off, you just win. Like, if you call this correctly, you win. And you might be doing the math and be like, oh, well, we only have X chance to do it, and then there's this problem, and oh, it might not be that broken. But you can call 3 and 4 in a deck with Grave Effects, and then 2 out of 3 times you'll win the game. And I would argue this is a way stronger effect than the Pot of Greed, for example, because you can go +5, +4 compared to +1, which isn't comparable. And even though it's a trap decks exist, and this card is just, the amount that you can draw with Sixth Sense is so tremendous that it actually counteracts how slow it is, and the fact that it's unsearchable. Maybe it's an A, maybe. I could see an argument for A, but the amount of advantage this card generates by itself is ridiculous. Do I think it's as good as Card of Safe Return? I could move both of these down to A, actually, but I think the one... Okay, so the problem is this. You can chain this to Feather Duster and then, like, alleviate one of the problems with trap decks. So that's cute as well. It has a lot of advantages that offers. I'm only thinking in terms of trap decks here. In terms of combo decks with hand traps, this could also be good. You trigger Grave Effects, / draw into more hand traps. I think if we just compare this, I'm trying to think if I can really justify putting this in S tier though. Is the effect significantly stronger than that of Graceful? Well, I think so, but I'm honestly not sure. I think this is definitely better than either of these cards. Are there any traps we have in A or S to compare it to right now? No. Okay, that's a problem. I lack a good way to compare this. I think we're gonna put an A because you can miss. Like, you can miss. And you can't miss with Painful Choice. You can't miss with Shockmaster. You can't, well, you can kind of miss with Shockmaster in game 1, but you don't even need to make it game 1. You can't miss with Azathoth. You can't miss with Gofu. Yeah, we're gonna put an A because it can miss and it's unsearchable. Alright, next we have Engage. This card's insane. Engage is really, really good. Do I think it's quite S tier though? Okay, so first of all, Strikers are really a strong deck. I'll make that clear right now. Strikers are strong. Engage, Drones, Kagari, bring back the Engage, and then draw again. So because it's like easy to combo, you can't really put this in everything. You do have to build around it on top of searching. And like going second, this is good too because you just search Widow Anchor / Afterburners. So you can instantly search a go second card with this card. And if you have the spells engraved, it can also get you a draw on top of that. So it's just better. it can get you Widow, Afterburners, or Drones. So it's a versatile card going second, which makes it insanely strong. It's not once per turn.
Splashable in numerous decks. The fact that it wasn't a once per turn meant you could use it multiple times. You could get it back with Kagari. The cards you could search were generic, so you could either steal your opponent's monsters, negate their effects, pop their spells and traps.
All right, hey, Simo actually made the same points as me for once. That's ridiculous. Let's go. Smoke Grenade. Can this come back? I think so. Smoke Grenade can come back. Okay, it's like Searchable Confiscation, which sounds really broken, but Warrior decks aren't super good anymore without Link Cross. They are pretty fragile. And this card can brick super hard, so I think D's fair. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with this. Meadow foes, play around hand traps. I think that'd be great. It's really annoying to play against, but at the same time, it has that high potential of detriment, and it's so horrible going second that I think D tier is fine. And then we have Snatch Steal. Is Snatch Steal better or worse than Change of Heart? Is the question. Well, it does like everything Change of Heart does, and it's technically slightly better, but is it like a tier better? Right, I think Change of Heart's like a messy tier. Okay, so you go second, use this, take their card. You can't take Dragoon, which is a problem, but whatever. Take their card, then you attack with it, you can link it off. I mean, it's not really doing that much. I know this was really good when it came back, but that was a while ago, and the game's changed a lot since then. There's like no boss monsters this can take anymore. Like before Construct with a boss monster, you can't do that. That's not a thing anymore. You can take Window with this though. Well, that's still Floodgates too though. It doesn't really help. You can link it away, I guess, if you play. You can't even Maiden with it. It's level 5. Yeah, you can like normal summon and then do something, but they can like kill it and punishment. Yeah, I think there's some problems with this. I don't think it's like super strong at all. Probably just a B, honestly. Like it can steal a lot of games, which is it's Snatch Steal. Okay, it's supposed to steal games. And I think it would almost be okay to have back, but not quite, because it would be really good going second. Yeah, well, I think a C is fair. Oh, it's searchable, though. Okay, never mind. It's a B. Maybe even an A. It's searchable. You just hit an armory into this, can't you? Yeah. Or whatever the thing's called. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is searchable. All right, easy B. Easy B. Because if it's searchable, then we're comparing this to Plush Fire and Block Dragon, and yeah. Right, if it's searchable, that means we're comparing it to Norden off Super Poly. B is definitely fair. Okay, it's weird. I somehow made... Alright, let me have Soul Charge. So Soul Charge is in the S tier because this is a finisher. And what that means for the unsearchable one-of is that you can deep draw into Soul Charge and we'll win the game. You can't deep draw into the Pod Read, for example, because getting a draw 2 at the end of your combo, it may get you exactly what you need, but it may also get you a once per turn card you already used. So, you know, like, there's that drawback there. Same thing with... If you try to deep draw into Grinder Golem, it's like, okay, now you're playing a deck that can combo into deep draw, probably has an extra deck, and then you have to fit Grinder extra deck, yeah, da-da-da-da. If you deep draw into this card, it's like, oh, okay, sure, you got this finisher now. But, like... What if you open it? What if you go second with it? There's all these problems. Whereas with Soul Charge, you can deep draw into it, or you can just open it. And basically every hand will be able to take advantage of this. Like, if this card is a 1-card summon, it's Monster Reborn. Going first, at least. And that's fine. So, the worst case, this is good when you open it. And you can build a deck to, you know, draw 20. Pendulums can do that very easily. And then drop this. World Chalice notoriously could just go through multiple Saryujas and try to force a Soul Charge. And if it got the Soul Charge, you win the game. And if it didn't, okay, whatever, you played your deck. And if you open the Soul Charge, you also win the game because you get hand trapped or whatever. This can carry you back into the game. So it's a one-of that's always good to get, which makes it unlike other unsearchable one-ofs because it's not just good to open. It's good to get at every stage of the game. It's good to top deck. And then just add on the fact that this effect is arguably even stronger than some of the other best unsearchable one-ofs. Like, this is arguably stronger than Gofu in many cases. Not in all cases, but in many cases. Especially when you top deck in late game. Like, this card actually does carry. And for that fact, I think Soul Charge is an easy S tier. And luckily, Simo agrees with me here. He doesn't argue it at all. It was legal for so long, though, because, again, it's an unsearchable one-up, so it's only winning you X amount of games. Now, those X amount of games are really unfair wins, and there's no reason for this card to have been legal for so long.
Soul Charge is S tier, no doubt about it. A card that allows you to summon 5 monsters from your graveyard should not be allowed in Yu-Gi-Oh!
I wish he would have been a bit more in-depth in his explanation, but whatever. And I got Spellbook of Judgment. Alright. And want to hear a secret? This card's too slow. Like, okay, Crowley exists. Spellbooks are like full power otherwise, but this card's too slow. You can search this X amount of ways, but the cards you're searching don't do anything until the following your next turn. You can search a quick play spell, but you can't set it. None of them are hand traps, obviously, they're all spells. The cards you're searching are really strong, but A, they're like half bricks these days. They're not doing enough. Knowledge exists, that's pretty broken, but by the time you get to use the cards you search off Judgment, half the time you're dead. I think this drops it down all the way to, like, it could probably come back, actually. I think Judgment could come back. It wouldn't do anything. Like, we're scared because we can get X amount plus. There's probably some dumb way to break it. Actually, oh, if you have 9 cards in your hand, this card becomes live all of a sudden and instantly win the game. There's probably something like that, so we're going to put this in C. But if I'm being honest, the cards you search on the end phase a bunch of spells. You can't use them. They're not negates. And you're not playing a trap deck, because you have to play a whole bunch of spells to resolve this. So, unless you're somehow putting up a board, and then also being able to set up Judgment, and then your deck somehow doesn't have enough follow-up by itself to win, that you need the extra spells you search, which are half the time bricks, by the way, I don't see the point. Now, of course, this thing does summon Jowgen end phase / other spellcasters, so that's actually a really good effect as well. So we're going to leave it in C tier, but card's heavily overrated. You search so many cards, but you can't actually use them. You can't use them yet. And that's just a huge weakness this card has to deal with.
Again, it's a spellbook specific card, so like you had to be playing the deck, but it allowed you to get so many cards. That's why I want to put it in A tier, but I feel like the A tier cards are very generic, so I'm going to put it in B tier.
Oh my gosh, Simo didn't put this in S? Let's go. He's realizing the problems with this? Wait, he put it in B because it's not generic enough? Well, it's not because of the fact that you can't use the cards you search until you're already dead half the time? Okay, whatever. But it is searchable, so you can like always get to it in Spellbook. So there's probably some way to make this broken, especially because Jowgen exists. Right, and there are good Spellbooks now because knowledge is really good. And then we have Master Plan. Can Master Plan come back? Not really. Is it like completely broken though? Not really either, because we do have 1 quick fix, 1 resort, I think. Resort's still at 1. Resort's at 1, yeah. C. There are a huge problem with this. Spirals probably wouldn't even be the best deck if this came back, but they would be pretty damn strong, and there might be some broken way to break it I'm not thinking of, so we're going to leave this in C. Simo's a Spiral player. I might actually get some insight on this card. Oh, he also put it in C? Let's go. All right.
The reason I like Master Plan here is because it generates you a lot of advantage, right? Once it goes to the graveyard, you get 2 cards and you can continuously resurrect it and get 3 more cards off of that. So just by itself, like that way, it's a +5, but obviously you're using cards to get other cards. So it may be like a +2 or 3 by the end of it all. Very, very strong enabler in the Spiral strategy.
How would you have explained it more? Like some dumb combo, but yeah, I had pluses a lot. Sure. Ptolemaeus. Alright, what are you making with this? Honestly, like Infinity was cool and all, it's a 1 negate, but you can make Pleiades too. Okay, that's pretty good, but what are you theoretically making with Ptolemaeus these days? Like, is there anything that's more broken that's come out? I don't think so, honestly. It is a rank 4 Pleiades though, which is really broken, and 3 level 4s can make Infinity. That's way too much extra deck space, I think, to be worth it, because there are negates in the forms of links now, so you don't really need that. And cards like Savage, more synchro negates as well. But this card's still really good. I think it's a C. I don't think it's quite that broken, actually. Simo put this in B, I believe. Yeah, let's try to hear him out here. Maybe there's something I'm not thinking of.
But you do need to have specific decks in order to play this card. So I'm going to give this a B just because, yes, it does break the ability for you to kind of go into other cards your deck shouldn't be able to if you're playing a rank 4 deck. But it's not like game warpingly strong, if that makes sense.
So is there any specific cards this goes into that's really broken though? Alright, Substitute. Is this an ass? Alright, how searchable is my boy? How searchable is Substitute? I don't think it's that searchable. Might be missing something. Yeah, off Wear Off Thou, which is cool. This card can instantly win the game, but I think it's a B. It might even be lower. Okay, so what you do is you play this in Frogs. You don't actually try to play too many, but you play, instead of playing like triple dupe, you play like, I don't know, you can do triple dupe, but you try to like play maybe more Frogs than you do. Maybe you just play the same amount to try to keep from bricking. But what this card does is it gives you infinite Link Fodder with Ronin Totem, which is insanely broken, obviously. And then from there you win. You can do the Mass Driver FTK. You're not gonna, because Mass Driver is banned, and also that's just too hard to pull off these days. There's probably some dumb FTK you can do, but just aside from that, you get so much Link spam potential, like with Level Eater, that's really broken. The reason it's so much lower is that it's less accessible. It requires way more deck investment. So I think Toad is still broken enough to make. Well, we're just gonna put this in C. I think Toad is good enough to make that deck really good, even if you don't get Substitute. But you're playing to get full value off this. You're playing a lot of Frogs. Like maybe Frogs right now are good enough to make this higher. Just splash it in. You don't even need that many bricks because Frogs are decent. But I think Frogs are kind of power crept as a trap deck. I could be wrong on this, but I think that's the case. Which means that playing all those bricks or / playing a mediocre deck in Frogs to take advantage of a card that isn't completely searchable, isn't super accessible.
So Substitute, yes, is game warping because the Frog FTK may be one of the most consistent FTKs of all time.
I think Frog FTK is one of the most consistent FTKs of all time. Against no hand traps it is. Add Emancipator FTK is like 90% success rate. Just summon Cyberstein. Search the thing that makes you not pay life points for psychics. Use Reproducus, and then triple Blaze Phoenix. If you don't have enough cards on field, you can unicorn back a Blaze Phoenix and do the 4th, and that's always an FTK. Emancipator FTK is way more consistent than Frog FTK could ever hope to be. Summon Sork. This one's very interesting. Okay, so number 1, Jellin Duo FTK comes back. Jellin Duo FTK is really broken. It's really easy these days. You just make Summon Sork with a Fairy on board and make a rank 7, basically. Because Agate Dragon's super easy. And this is a link 3, so we can go into Griffin, which people have forgotten about. That card's still really good. You can go into Apollo immediately, which is lets you play around hand traps, so it might be a bit too late at that point. Okay, we'll grant that, but it works. It's a spellcaster, so we can go into Celine. This card is really freaking broken. If it's not an S, it's an A. Alright, if it's not an S, it's an A. How does this compare to my current S tier? It's like a combo card. So it's like Electromite. Is it as good as Electromite? I don't think it's as good as Electromite. If it isn't, it's still pretty close though, because you can play it in a huge variety of decks. Huge variety. You can play Pendulums too. You go Crowley, Spellcaster, summon this, and then what does it do? That's the big question. What does this do to break the game? Or what does this bring out? Okay, do I have a super clear answer right now? Not really, but do I think it's possible? Oh, definitely. Because you can just summon a monster of any type that your deck's playing, right? It's been forever, and the old combos involved crazy needle fiber shenanigans. But it looks super easy. Are you able to bring out a card from your deck that can just win the game outright because of Summon Sork? / use this to facilitate a combo with needle fiber, for example, to just completely obliterate this game. The answer to that is most likely yes, I think, because a lot of the old needle fiber combos are still intact. Okay, Dandelion's banned, so you can't do the one with Cherubini as easily. Alright, you can't do the infinite tokens banned. Firewall's banned, so the best thing this goes into is dead. But there's still a huge variety of ridiculous things that Summon Sword will accomplish. And it doesn't neg at all. You instantly get back the advantage you lost and you get to Link Climb. It's so free, like that's the main thing. You can put this in X amount of decks. They can just take advantage of this and use it to Link Climb. This climbs it. This makes access code. Yeah, okay, could be an ass, but I think we're gonna put in an A for now. It makes access code. This thing's broken only second too. That's ridiculous. This card's ridiculous. All right, we're gonna leave a name.
You could just do whatever you wanted at that point. The card is really strong. It's generic. Pretty much every single deck could play it. It enabled so many different types of combos. This is a solid B tier.
So he used all the logic he does to explain why a card's good, and then put it in B tier. Huh? And then you put Masterpiece in A. What? We're gonna put an A and call it there. I don't know what his thinking is. Starving Venom. Alright. How broken is Starving Venom? It's really good. Let's just say that. It's really good. At 1, you can't do the FTK though, so I think C is fine. The FTK is even easier now because Verte exists and you can just Verte copy Instant Fusion Summon Lyrilisk if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and then this. If you can make 2 of these, you win, but you can't if it's at 1, obviously. It's still really strong though because A, just with the Lyrilisk, what is this thing? 6,800 attack unaffected by card effects? Yeah, ridiculous. And does like 4,000 burn. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably higher. 6,800 on a like. If you're playing against a trap deck and you summon this, it's over. There's 0 ways they have of outing this. You know what? It might be A just because of that. You have to play pendulums, and you do have to get 2 dark spellcasters, which with magicians is not hard, but magicians are kind of not optimal in Endymion. It's still not hard though. This could be an A. Probably an A. Or remember this is an A. 6,800 unaffected by card effects? What is the... Okay, no, does it only copy for 1 turn, though, or does it keep it? Okay, you lose the unaffected by card effects. Alright, that drops us down to a C. So our card's still good. Okay. Alright, Starving Venom. We're putting this in C. I did some digging. Alright, the thing is, Lyrilisk is, like, way easier to make now, because you can just Verte Instant Fusion into it. You don't even need to get to the Instant Fusion anymore. Problem is, this only keeps it for that turn. So if you're doing 4,000 burn, which is broken, there's probably a way to break that or do 4,000 somewhere else and you win. But as it stands, that's still decent. And then the fact that this can copy other cards as well. Effect copy is inherently broken. Without Electromite, it's a bit weird, but there's probably something you can do to break this. And it's a shame it doesn't last, so you can't use copy and negate and use that, but there's probably some really dumb stuff this can do. So for that reason, we're leaving C. If Electromite ever comes back, this goes up higher, but... Okay, and then we got our big boy. Tempest Magician. Is this an S tier? With Celine? I don't think so, because you have to play Magicians, and that lowers your spell counters, because you can't, like, draw quite as hard. In the OCG, this card was easiest S tier of my life. OCG players have 0 clue what they're doing. They play 1 Celine in the extra deck and try to do this 8,000 at once. Why? Why? Just make 3. Just Tempest, burn, and then link everything off into another Celine. Revive the Tempest, burn them again. Turn everything into another Celine, revive the Tempest, and kill them. That's that easy. You don't need that many counters at that point because you can just revive Tempest with Celine. Like, did they not realize that? Because you play 3 Celine. Celine's not once per turn. Just play 3 of it. And that chicken game, I realized that. But you can just pop it, so that's not an argument. Yeah. This card's really freaking good. I think it's an A. Just because you do have to play some Magicians, which might not be optimal, to do Hawk/something shenanigans to make the level 6 synchro. And then from there, you make a couple of Celines, and it's game over just like that. I mean, the fact that this is in the extra deck, so you can even try to make this with no bricks. I'm not sure if that's possible to get the level 6 synchro without needing a card that's bad, but maybe there's a way I'm not thinking of with Hawk. And then from there, once this comes out in the right setup, it's an FTK. So just having a backup FTK in a deck that can put up 7 negates sounds like a good idea. You know? Who needs to play around Dark Ruler when you just kill them immediately? Now, of course, you can make the argument that you're putting up 7 negates, you don't need the FTK, because nothing can break that, because you already have the Dark Ruler on right hand. It's like, the deck that puts up 7 negates doesn't need to do the FTK, but just in case, you know? Just in case you have double Dark Ruler no more, just in case you don't get to the restage, there's situations where you want the Tempest FTK them, and it lets you do that. That's how good Pendulum is. You can say, oh yeah, I'll just make 7 negates, and I don't even care about trying to FTK because I've already won without it. I think the reason this is an A tier is if Desires banishes your negate cards, you FTK them instead. Backup plan, baby, let's go. This sounds super stupid, but that's how good Pendulum is. And this sadly doesn't help you against Droll at all. But it's in the extra deck, and it wins games, and you can probably win going second with it as well. Like, think about it, you can't OTK them quite, but you're like comboing off on them. And the problem is you just can't get enough damage in. They have too many monsters in defense position. They have, like, Owlitch or something. They're just, like, blocking their attacks. You're like, okay, I don't want to deal with that. Instead, I'll bait out your negates, whole bunch of spells in my grave, and I'll just make Tempest and one-shot you. And I think that could come up. Maybe it won't. Maybe I'm making it out to be better than it is. But Tempest is still really broken. Like, if Pendulums didn't make 7 negates, this would be a much easier argument to make. The problem is that Pure Endymion puts up so many negates, we're actually arguing over whether or not FTKing matters. And you think this might be the biggest shift we have from Simo, but oh, there's an even bigger one, I think. Depends. Okay. There's a couple that are just as big. One of those might be even bigger. Casimo put this in F tier? What? How?
The only reason this is on here is because it facilitates FTKs and has always facilitated spell counter focused FTKs. It needs to be banned, but it's just banned for that reason alone. And it's not really like a good card. It's just an FTK enabler.
What does that even mean? It's not a good card, but it's an FTK enabler. It enables you to win the game, but it's not good. Isn't the point of playing to, win the game? So how could a card that literally kills the opponent, right, wins the game on the first turn, enabling that consistently, not be a good card? And the reason it's higher than X amount of other FTK enablers is that it's not a brick, it's in the extra deck. And it's already the best deck. So, yeah, easy A tier, I think. Maybe lower because Pendulums are that good and 7 negates is basically an FTK already. Alright, next we have Grass. Okay. Grass would be super fun. The way you play around Grass is you just play 60 cards, which a lot of decks can do nowadays, so that might be a problem for you. But Grass is super fun. Like, it's a really cool card. We're gonna put it in B because it's so easy to play around. Like, you literally just build your deck around it. As in, you don't even change that much. You just play 60 and play X amount of other good cards in your deck. Like, Owlitch, I just add 10 more traps and 10 more spells and monsters. Done, right? Add one more grind engine. And then I play some traps I don't normally play, like Impulse and Dynamiscus. And oh, look at that, I'm at 60 cards. So you can just do that, and that'll, make the opponent's Grass kind of suck. At the same time, this is one of the cards, the only cards in the game that you ever would search with Left Arm Offering. And I think that speaks to how good the card is. The problem is you don't have Soul Charge anymore, so you don't have a second target, so the left arms could be bricked if your opponent is also playing 60. But I mean, this card can single-handedly win the game. And for that reason, I think it deserves somewhat of a high tiering, even if it is problematic in how easy it is to build around.
Or there should be no card in the game that allows you to mill a third of your deck and essentially welcome in the advent of 60 card lists being the meta, because if you send 20 cards from your deck to the graveyard, even if it's random, you're probably going to have 4 or 5 of those cards give you some sort of advantage.
Does Zemo just literally say that it's makes 60 card deck meta, and it also mills a third? You can't have both. You can't have both. You can only have one. Because if your opponent plays 60, this card barely mills. Another point I want to make is this card gets better when you go second. If the opponent goes through their deck, this just mills more, which makes it better. So this is one of those few combo cards that get better going second. But I think we're leaving it at B because you have to play 60, which makes this even harder to get than some of the other unsearchable one-offs like Pot of Greed. And, okay, it's still a much stronger effect. But again, and yeah, it can get stopped by your opponent literally just playing more cards in their deck. Alright, next up, Forceful Sentry. So this has the same tier as Confiscation. And guys, listen, there's really not that big of a difference, okay? There's really not. Confiscation can hit a graveyard effect. Just don't hit the graveyard effect, moron. Forceful Sentry can let them draw the card back. Yeah, it's very not likely to happen, alright? Stop worrying so much. Like, what are you putting back that they really want in their deck? A card they can search, right? Like a searchable card? Do they really need that card in hand then? How many cards you search are also starters? Think about it. Think about it. Most of the starters search your other cards, not the other way around. So hit their starter, don't hit the card they're searching. Like, if you know what you're doing with these cards, the downsides people think of don't exist. These cards are the same. Alright. Yeah, okay, so even does make an interesting argument that you don't have to pay life points, which matters in time, technically, but again, it doesn't matter. These are the same. These don't, there's no difference that's real. Alright, here's a big disagreement. Tyrant Neptune. How good is Tyrant Neptune? You can search enough Feral Imps. We're saying this card's a B. Because if you make this against a trap deck, you win the game. Straight up. There's nothing they can do about it. This is a 5,000 attack. Alright? It's level 10, yeah. Card is 5,000 attack. No, 5,500. Unaffected by card effects. Trap decks have no way of outing that card. And it wins the game in 2 turns off burn damage alone. Unless I'm somehow getting the ruling with Verte wrong. You just Verte, instant fusion, summon Lyrilisk fusion. Tribute summon this because Verte prevents you from special summoning. You can still tribute summon. Gain 5,500 attack. Do 5,000 burn damage unaffected by card effects. What trap deck can out that without a Kaiju? It can't happen. Trap decks have 0 answers to this once this comes out. You instantly win the game. Okay, what's the problem? You can't normal summon. Okay, that does sound like a big problem, right? I'll grant you that.
The Tyrant Neptune is very similar to Starving Venom, as a matter of fact, but I'm actually going to throw this into F tier. At least Starving Venom in the Pendulum deck had utility outside of facilitating the FTK. It was actually just a generally decent card and was very easy to make for the deck. It kind of just slid right in. Tyrant Neptune, you kind of have to build around. It has the same bullshit where it can copy an independent Nightingale, become like 6,000 attack, and burn your opponent for like 5,000 damage. Oh, and it's immune to like all card effects. So if it wasn't for Nightingale specifically, the card's only as good as what it can copy, and yeah, just like a really dumb card, so F tier.
I don't think SIBO realizes you can just Verte instant fusion Nightingale. Okay, what if I'm wrong on this? Now I'm scared. I don't want to put out false information. Let's just test this real quick, alright? Yup, Verte summons Nightingale, 0 difficulty. Absolutely 0. And then you just tribute summon the Neptune. I don't see why that wouldn't work either. Yep, you can't special, you can normal summon. It's just easy. Is there a deck that, like, right now completely abuses this and makes it broken? Maybe not, but can Pendulums probably do it with the Pen Summon? Do Pendulums really care about the normal summon? No, it's just a draw card. It's Blue Boy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it's so searchable. I think a B is completely fair. That went on way too long. We're going to have to edit that a whole bunch. Alright, next we have Colossus. Colossus is also a B. I don't know how Simo put Tyrant Neptune in F. Like, I don't think he comprehends how accessible the combo actually is. Alright, next we got Colossus. Okay, so why do we put Colossus in B? It's just so accessible. Like, you just turn a Thunder token into this, or any Thunder Dragon card, and whatever. And okay, now you have a easy boss monster that's annoying to out, that prevents the opponent from searching. This card beats, like, X amount of decks. Like, Dragon Link would be so crippled against this, and they can't do much about it. And you can't melt. Then, like, Invoke, too. You can't Alistair effectively. You can't melt down effectively. So many cards just, like, die when the opponent has Colossus. And you can't out it very easily either, because it does have that element of protection on itself. And then it's just one monster that you summon out that turns into Colossus. Like, you don't have to play Thunder Dragons. You can just splash them in somewhere. You can just splash them in a deck that can summon out the cards, which isn't hard. Not to mention there are other decks with Thunders, like Prank Kids, that could maybe abuse this if they wanted to. And then the Prank Kid board would actually be scary, because it's, you know, something on top of their one negate, basically. So, yeah, I think Colossus is a really strong card.
This card's stupid, F tier. Colossus is a C tier, and I'm not doing that just because it's C for Colossus. Colossus is a card that a lot of people feel can come back, similar in light to Electromite, but Colossus is just a very oppressive card. Your opponent can't add cards from deck to hand. It has built-in protection. Back in the day, you could summon multiple of these at once, so people argue, oh, if you just have one, it's okay. But even with that, having a full end board, plus not being able to search your deck to help deal with it, I don't think that's very fun. I'm not fond of that card design, but the card is pretty decent. In the context of the rest of these cards, though, I think it's a solid C.
Yeah, really? He put Ptolemaeus in B, though, and I don't see how one Pleiades is better than a Colossus. Just saying. Alright, and then the Time Seal. He put this in D. How? This card is horrid. He literally doesn't do anything. Because you'll die or win before this card does anything. You'll probably die because you lost a card. You set this, and then you activate on the opponent's turn. And then go through your next turn. And then on turn 4, the opponent doesn't top deck. Who cares? It's game's over by then. What's the point? I don't understand. It's a 1-for-1 that happens. You're not on the turn you draw it, not on the next turn, not on the 3 turns after you draw it. It's a 1-for-1 with one of the opponent's cards. Like, this card doesn't do anything. This card's so bad. And Simo put this in D tier when he put Heart Poor in F? What? Card literally fails to do a single thing. Because by the time it does the effect, you've literally won or lost like 90% of your games. Denying the opponent draws is not a strong effect unless they have like no cards in hand. Which, there was that one card that let you do that. Oh yeah, what was it called? Chaos Emperor Dragon that instantly hand looped the opponent for 5. Yeah, that's what made those you can't draw cards any good. It's the fact that there was a card that literally hand looped for 5. Without that card, anti-draw phase cards are useless. Alright, next up we have Gumblar. Like, it's actually just a myth that preventing the opponent from drawing is this overpowered effect. There's nothing more broken about that than just getting rid of a card from the opponent. It's 1-for-1. Gumblar is an A, like Rongo. Is it? Okay, so Link Spam still exists, and no one does it, because there's nothing to actually do with it that's good. Like, oh, Firewall's back, you got the bounces. Trigate is 8 cards, like 8 Link materials for 1 negate. It's not worth it. Gumblar would make Link Spam good, and there's a lot of decks that can do that can summon a whole bunch of monsters. They just aren't, because Link Spam isn't good, because there's nothing to make with it. If Gumblar came back, those decks would become good, and you just make Gumblar and you win. So, an easy A tier. Like, oh, people aren't summoning enough to make this good. Yeah, because, like, there's no point, but if this comes back, there would be a point, and thus you would do that, and it would be really good. Then we have Trap Dust Shoot. So, a Pointer the Red Lotus was played for a while, and this is, like, better, but at the same time, it doesn't even do what a Pointer does, because a Pointer is usually hitting spell traps. That's a consideration. But, I mean, this card's actually good in trap decks as well. You don't just hit a specific card because it doesn't nag. It's a 1-for-1. See, this is so much better than Time Seal. Because the way this works is you look at your hand, you pick a card, and, you know, it happens right away. You don't have to wait 5 billion turns for it to do anything. Card's so bad. Why is this banned? Where does Simo put Dust Shoot? He also put in C. I don't even care about his explanation. Let's just move on. Calamities. Calamities did not need to get banned. That's my take. This card is so bad against trap decks, it literally doesn't do anything against trap decks and requires, like, all your resources. Ugh. But at the same time, it's, like, really easy to make, honestly, so maybe it's worth it, and against some matchups, you just win and they can't out it. So we'll give it a C and be generous, but no, this isn't as good as your B's, because it's not nearly as accessible. Dark Matter's still the best rank 9. Going +5 is better than locking the opponent out. It's way easier. And no, this isn't even close to wrong. And the reason that it's not as broken as other insta-win cards is that it doesn't insta-win all matchups. There's matchups where you lose. And there's a lot of ways to play around this. Like, there are a bunch of cards that can stop this from activating. And it's like you just need other negates with it, but the decks that make this don't put up other negates. Which puts you in a very interesting position where it doesn't work. Metal Foes can actually break this. Like, Metal Foes can make this card really broken. But the problem there is Metal Foes kind of suck going second, so it's not quite a good deck. Alright, next we have Ultimate Offering. D. It can come back. Not horrible. There's some ways to make this card actually pretty good, like gadgets, shenanigans. Where does Simo put it?
Decent for what it does, but who's going to be playing Ultimate Offering in 2021, I guess is the question. The fact that you could have like 15 extra normal summons is kind of broken, but I can't really fathom seeing people playing Ultimate Offering during this time.
Hey, Simo actually gets it, so we'll give him some slack here. Union Carrier's like a C without Orcus. It's not quite that broken at all. Like, without Harp, this card's whatever. It was fun. I don't know why they banned it, because now ABC's lost their best support. It was kind of broken, but nah. Alright, there's that one Pendulum combo you search Servant that's actually broken, but no, the rulings on that were so unclear, because no one ever played Charmers before Triff was like, oh, just search Servant. That, yeah, we never actually got to play it. Sad. Very sad. That would move it up a bunch, by the way. That's like Electromite right there, but we'll just leave it in C for now. He put in B. I'll just take it. I don't even care about his explanation. You can argue B because it's easy. Alright, here's the Bombshell. Oh, these next moves are bombshells right here. Alright. Vanity's Emptiness. Ugh. Is Vanity's any good? No, and Vanity sucks, and here's why. It's horrid going second. It doesn't do anything going second. Because what's the opponent going to have going second against you? It's going to have some form of interruption, right? Popping cards, negating and destroying, all that stuff, right? You set this, and then you use it so they can't OTK you, right? They just go enter battle phase attack. Alright, now what do you have to do? You have to, like, use something else to try to stop them from attacking, right? So, let's say you use your, let's say you Needle Sealing, for example. What happens when you use Needle Sealing? It goes to Grave. Oh, okay. What are they negated? Oh, what happens? It goes to Grave. And what happens to the Vanities? Oh, it kills itself. The card doesn't do anything. The card's horrible. It's actually so bad. Like, this card literally murders itself when you try to do anything with it. Okay, so that's going second with a trap deck. What if you're splashing this into a combo deck? Okay, then it's good, right? Because you just draw this card and you set it after your combo, you activate and you win, right? Okay, so let's say the opponent goes like normal summon and they attack one of your cards. What does the Vanities do? Oh, it kills itself. Very interesting. Okay, you prevent them from doing that, alright? You have some way to stop them from attacking your card, yada yada, and you negate all their other cards. See, the Vanities won the game. But like, you negate all their cards, so you already won the game. Okay, I'd say a combo deck going first. Alright, that could be good. Alright, I'll take it, but it's not searchable, so unless you're like Curious Griffining for this, by that point, yeah, it's going way too far for this card. And then what about going second with a combo deck? Then it's just a brick, because you're trying to break through their negates and, you know, prevent them from killing you using your spells and your monsters. And it's just a dead card. That's just completely horrible in that context. And then let's say, okay, we're gonna play a trap deck, and you're going first with it. That's like the best case scenario, right? They use Feather Duster. Oh, but you were prepared. You used Solemn Judgment to stop them from instantly winning the game. What happens to Vanity? It kills itself. Oh, yeah, like, card kills itself in so many situations. I want to just put this in F tier because it's so horrible. Well, I might put it in D out of respect for how good it was for a while, but like, okay, think about it this way. It was a 3 of. Floodgates were just better back then. Negates weren't really a thing. Your deck was like putting up big monsters. Like there weren't small monsters that were negates that you wanted. Your deck, you were primarily putting up big monsters because that was the format. And in that context, like with protection too, it was like a boss monster format, Dragon Rulers for example. In that context, this card's really broken, going first. And like drawing this, going second didn't matter nearly as much because the opponent wasn't actually OTKing you every game. None of those apply anymore. The opponent will OTK you if you draw this, and it's just horrible. And then if we go further and we compare this to Summon Limit, like Summon Limit doesn't stop quite as much. It stops one less summon. For that, it doesn't kill itself whenever you try to do anything else. And Summon Limit's legal. I don't see a reason to play Vanities over Summon Limit outside of Dragoon. I really don't. And Dragoon decks, right? Hardcore Red Eyes Fusion decks will have a way of killing one of your cards and turning off your Vanities. That's just a given. Which means this card doesn't do anything. People will play it though. It's not completely unusable. People will play it. It won't be that good, but that's a situation where it could do something. So we're putting in D. And Simo had the audacity to put this horrible card in S tier. And I don't know why. Well, let's try to listen to his explanation. Alright? I tried to save it, so let's get a live reaction going here, alright?
S tier. This card is just absurd. I don't know how this card was legal for as long as it was, just denying opponents the ability to actually have a core mechanic of the game, especially after you've already set up completely and then you just flip emptiness and it's game over at that point because the game is so special summon reliant. This card is absolutely game warping and deserves to be an S tier.
So his argument is in the context of a combo deck that was able to go off despite hand traps and set up an entire board and hard draw the emptiness because you're not searching it. That's not an argument. You have to hard draw this card, which is going to be a brick if you got hand trap down. It's a brick going second. And it's just a win more card because you already need your board to protect this thing because it kills itself whenever anything else dies. What is the point? Card's horrible, alright? Next you have Victory Dragon. Yeah, I don't even need to explain. Okay, why is this card bad? It's a match win card. The opponent just scoops, so it doesn't work. Zenmaity. I'm tempted to put this in F tier because windups don't do it. And we're playing this F tier. No one's gonna play windups, right? There's still hits on some of the other cards, like the hand looping. Card doesn't do anything. F tier it goes. Hand looping is dumb, but it's just way too fragile to hand traps and not good enough going second to do anything. Actually, I don't think Wind Up Hunters hit. It's one of the other ones, isn't it? Wait, no, none of them are? Okay, the Zenmaity... No Wind Ups are right. Okay, never mind. So you can just hand loop, which sounds broken. That might be a D, but I don't think anyone will play it still. I think Salad's probably better than Wind Ups. And this is in D, and this is I think Salads are way better than Windups. The problem is you lose to every hand trap and you can't go second. Alright, I'm just gonna explode in these next two cards. Yada Garasu. The card literally doesn't do anything. It's a 1-card hand rep if a 200 attack monster can hit face. So you gotta go second. Or be on turn 3, but you should have won by then. You have to go second, somehow get to this card, clear the opponent's entire board, and then attack with them with it. I have a better idea. Just attack them with access code and kill them. Just a thought? What in the world is the point of this? You prevent them from drawing one card. And to do that, this is Yu-Gi-Oh, right? This is Yu-Gi-Oh we're playing. You can't choose what you attack. You have to clear their board first. You clear their entire board to prevent one draw. This card bounces your hand on the end phase. What in the world is that accomplishing for you? I don't get the point. I really don't. Why would you play this? You have to normal summon it? You can't search it effectively. Okay, there's some ways, but Why? You have to clear the opponent's entire board, and all of this to stop them from drawing one card? I don't get it. And where did Simo put this? He put this in A tier. He almost put it in S tier. What? Okay, I need to hear this. I'll get another live reaction.
It eats your normal summon, it's 200 attack. It does stop your opponent's draw phase, like it's still a good card, but is it that good by today's standards? And that's really the question. I want to put this as an S tier. I really, really do. I think I'm going to bump it down to A because the legacy this card has, no pun intended, is absolutely phenomenal. But I think by today's standards, it's not nearly as game warping as it was before.
Oh, by today's standards, not game warping, but legacy makes it an A tier? No, there's this one, you know why this was good back then? It's not because the card was good back then. It's not why. There was this one other card that existed which instantly accomplished everything I just stated and also put the opponent down to 0 cards in hand. I wonder what that was. A card that could wipe the entire board, was easy to access, could summon itself for free, and also hand loop the opponent completely. Yeah, I think there was a card like that. It was like called like Chaos Emperor Dragon or something. But Yada was the broken card, right? The 1-for-1 was broken, not the card that broke the entire board and hand looped for 5 and summoned itself for free. Not that one. No. This is the broken card. Anyone who thinks that Yada was broken and not Chaos Emperor Dragon, like anyone who thinks Yada would have done anything, even in 2005, without Chaos Emperor Dragon, it would have done like half a thing. You might have been able to use it every once in a while, be cheeky, but it wouldn't win games. Like it just wouldn't, and it would be like half worth it to play, because also the hand loop cards were legal, so there were other ways to do it too. All the hand loop cards are like banned, bro. All the good hand loop cards are banned or eroded. This card's never resolving. Okay. There's my diatribe out of the way. My throat literally hurts because I just kind of erupted at some of these takes. Oh my god. These cards are so freaking bad, man. Alright. And then lastly, we have the exact opposite. Zodiac Broad Bull. Simo put this in C? What? Okay. I think that's our last S tier. It might be just an A. But I want to put an S out of spite. Okay, here's what Broad Build does. Without Zodiacs. It's a rank 4. 2 level 4s. That's how easy this thing's to make. 2 level 4s. 2 level 4 monsters. You summon this. What does it do? It searches a card for free. Okay, it sounds pretty good. Any Beast Warrior. So, what can you search with that, right? Okay, granted there's not too many good targets, which is kind of sad. But there are some decent targets. As a Pendulum player, I would just search a Scale. Alright, I would just search a Scale. You can search Luna Ice with this, which is pretty cool. I can search freaking Dragoons of Draconia, because it's a Beast Warrior and it's a Scale. So, free search. Luna Lights can take care of that. Huge advantage. Tri-Brigade exists. There's probably something they can do. Okay, that's the first thing it does. Oh wait, there's more. It's not just like Feral Imps or Granite. Granted, it's a lot worse because the cards are searching a lot worse, but you got a free search. What can you then do? You can then summon Dryden and pop a card for free. Oh, okay, interesting. And then you can summon Chakanai and revive the Bravo back for free. And then you can go to F-Zero, and when Utopic Future Dragon comes out, you can make that. Oh, okay, so it's like a 1-card F-Zero, Utopic Future Dragon that also searches a card and pops a card with Dryden if you want to do that. Very interesting. Okay, so it facilitates, and then what if you're playing Zodiacs? Then you can detach a Zodiac immediately, and what does that do? That instantly facilitates your Chakanai to summon a card for free. Very interesting. Very interesting. So what you're telling me is that this is a rank 4, which can have a good rank 4 effect in searching a card, and then immediately have another good rank 4 effect in being able to pop a card with Dryden, and then immediately have another good rank 4 effect in reviving a card for free. Which means this is like 3 rank 4s with 2 level 4 monsters. Yeah, I think that's really broken, believe it or not. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on why, but I think that's kind of a good effect. Very, very interesting.
C tier, Broad Bowl is able to search so many different types of cards in the game because it's not limited to a specific archetype. And this card has enabled a lot of degenerate shenanigans. But again, it is still a part of a specific archetype, even though 2 level 4s can make it. But I don't feel like this is on the power level of something like a Rongaminiad or a Gumblar or an Electromite.
You think searching a card is what makes this broken? Not the fact that it can instantly go into 2 other really good rank 4s? Huh? It's not limited to the archetype at all. Track and I can just revive the Trident. Track and I can just revive the Broad Bull that you detach off Trident. Trident can pop any card. This isn't limited to Zodiacs at all. You have to play Zodiacs in the extra deck. And I can go into Zeus at the end, or F-Zero Future Dragon. Literally no Zodiac main deck involved at all. It's just pure plus, pure power. Alright, so there's my tier list. You guys can rate it in the comments, I guess. Where did I go wrong? What mistakes did I make? Where am I right? Outback, thanks for your suggestions and support in the comments. I appreciate the ideas. This video is going to take 5 billion hours to edit down, so don't blame me if it comes out late. That's me all for today, guys. Take care, y'all. Goodbye.